Everyone thought this case was simple. Too simple. The kind of crime where the answer feels obvious within minutes. The kind where the evidence points in one direction so clearly that nobody bothers to look anywhere else. And that's exactly why this story matters. Because sometimes the clearest crime is the most misunderstood one. This story begins in a quiet American town called Riverton, a place where people wave at their neighbors, where nothing ever makes the news, and where everyone believes they know each other. In Riverton, nothing bad was supposed to happen, until one night, when a single phone call shattered that illusion forever. At 11:47 p.m., police received a distress call from a woman screaming for help. When officers arrived at the address, they found a man named Aaron Miller lying on his bedroom floor, bleeding heavily from a stab wound to the chest. He was already dead. The room smelled of iron and fear. Blood stained the carpet, and beside the body lay a kitchen knife. Standing frozen in the doorway was Aaron's wife, Maya Miller. Maya was 32 years old, a middle school teacher, soft-spoken, known for baking cookies for her students and volunteering at school events. She had no criminal record, no history of violence. But within minutes of the police entering that house, Maya became the prime suspect. Because the knife had her fingerprints on it, only her fingerprints, Maya was shaking uncontrollably, repeating the same sentence over and over again. I didn't do this. I swear I didn't do this. But shock doesn't look convincing to everyone, especially not to investigators trained to trust evidence over emotion. Neighbors told police they heard shouting earlier that night, a heated argument between the couple. One neighbor claimed it sounded serious, like something was wrong. Another said they'd heard things weren't great between Maya and Aaron lately. And just like that, a story formed. A troubled marriage, a late-night argument, a moment of rage, a knife within reach. It fit perfectly. Maya was taken into custody that same night. At the police station, the interrogation lasted for hours. Detectives asked the same questions again and again, hoping for cracks in her story. Did he threaten you? Were you angry? Did he say something that made you snap? Maya's answer never changed. She said Aaron received a phone call that night. She said he looked nervous. She said he went into the bedroom and shut the door. Minutes later, she heard a scream. When she ran in, he was already on the floor. She panicked. She picked up the knife. That was it. To the police, that explanation sounded convenient. The forensic report came back quickly. The knife matched the wound. No signs of forced entry. No unknown DNA. No fingerprints other than Maya's. Everything pointed straight at her. The media didn't wait for the trial. Headlines exploded across local news stations. Teacher accused of murdering husband. Perfect life, deadly secret. Crime of passion in quiet town. By the time Maya's case went to court, public opinion was already sealed. Inside the courtroom, prosecutors painted Maya as a woman pushed too far. They argued that behind her calm appearance was bottled-up anger, that the argument turned physical, that she grabbed the knife and ended her husband's life in a moment she could never take back. Her defense attorney tried to explain the fingerprints. Maya cooked every night. Of course her prints were on the knife. He questioned the lack of other evidence, but doubt didn't stand a chance against certainty. The jury saw the photos, heard the neighbors, listened to the forensic experts say, the evidence is consistent with the defendant committing the crime. After just 6 hours of deliberation, the verdict came back. Guilty. Maya was sentenced to 25 years in prison. As she stood to hear the sentence, she didn't scream. She didn't collapse. She only said one thing before being led away in handcuffs. The truth will come out. Most people in that courtroom didn't believe her. They thought the story was over. They were wrong. Because while Maya was beginning a nightmare behind prison walls, the real truth was still walking free. And the betrayal that would eventually be uncovered was far worse than anyone imagined. Prison changes time. Days blur together. Weeks disappear. And for Maya, every morning began with the same question echoing in her mind. If I didn't do this, who did? For years, her appeals were denied. Courts trusted the original verdict. Evidence, after all, had spoken. And evidence doesn't lie, or so everyone believed. Then, nearly 9 years into her sentence, someone new looked at her case with fresh eyes. His name was Daniel Reed, an investigative journalist known for digging into wrongful convictions. He had seen patterns before, cases where evidence looked airtight, until someone asked the right questions. When Daniel first read about Maya Miller, something felt off. He requested the full case file, crime scene photos, autopsy reports, trial transcripts. And the more he read, the more uncomfortable he became. The blood pattern in the bedroom didn't match a sudden attack. Aaron's body position suggested movement, like he'd tried to back away. The wound angle implied the attacker was facing him directly, not standing beside him as Maya would have been if she'd grabbed the knife from the kitchen during an argument. Then there was the knife. The report stated Maya's fingerprints were the only ones found. But Daniel noticed something odd. The grip area showed smudging, not clean fingerprints. Smudges consistent with gloves. Why would Maya wear gloves inside her own home? Daniel visited Maya in prison. For the first time in years, someone listened without assuming guilt. Maya told him about the phone call, about how Aaron's entire mood changed afterward, about the scream that still haunted her dreams. Daniel obtained Aaron's phone records. That's when everything cracked open. One number appeared repeatedly. Late-night calls, long conversations, almost daily contact. The number belonged to a woman named Natalie Brooks, Aaron's business partner. During the original trial, Natalie testified briefly. She claimed their relationship was strictly professional. The prosecution didn't push further. There was no reason to. But now, with the phone records in hand, Daniel dug deeper. Aaron's company was under investigation for financial irregularities at the time of his death. Millions of dollars unaccounted for. And Natalie's name appeared all over the documents. If Aaron talked, Natalie's career and freedom would be over. Daniel tracked down a retired forensic technician who had worked on the case. After some hesitation, the man admitted something disturbing. There had been a partial fingerprint on the knife that didn't belong to Maya. It was faint, incomplete, and deemed unusable, so it was ignored. Daniel filed a request for a new forensic analysis. The results confirmed it. The partial print did not match Maya Miller. When Daniel published his findings, the media exploded again, this time with very different headlines. Did the justice system get it wrong? New evidence in teacher's murder conviction. Was the wrong person sent to prison? The court approved an appeal. Natalie Brooks was called back to the stand. This time, the questions were sharper. The phone calls, the financial fraud, the pressure. Natalie's confidence crumbled. Her story changed. Her hands shook. And then, under oath, she broke. She admitted she went to Aaron's house that night. She said he threatened to go to the police. She said she panicked. She said she wore gloves because she didn't want to leave evidence. One argument, one moment of fear, one stab. She never planned to frame Maya. But when the investigation focused on the wife, Natalie stayed silent. Her silence stole 11 years of someone else's life. The courtroom fell into stunned silence. Maya wept openly as the judge overturned her conviction. After 11 years behind bars, she was finally free. But freedom doesn't erase betrayal. When Maya stepped out of prison, the world felt unfamiliar. Technology had changed. Faces had aged. Her parents were older, fragile in ways she wasn't prepared for. Friends were gone. Some had moved on. Others had never believed her. The media cameras were waiting. Microphones shoved toward her face. Everyone wanted a quote. Everyone wanted closure. But how do you explain losing 11 years to a lie? Natalie Brooks was sentenced to prison. Justice, on paper, was served. Maya received financial compensation. But money doesn't restore trust. It doesn't return birthdays missed, careers lost, or nights spent crying alone in a cell. Maya left Riverton. She started over in a small town where no one knew her story. She returned to teaching. But she also began speaking publicly. About assumptions. About how quickly society decides who is guilty. About how dangerous certainty can be. Daniel Reed wrote a book about the case. He called it The Crime Everyone Misjudged. It became a national bestseller. Law enforcement agencies reviewed their forensic procedures. Partial evidence could no longer be ignored so easily. But Maya knew the deeper truth. This wasn't just about one woman framed for murder. It was about how easily we believe a story when it fits our expectations. How quickly we turn suspicion into judgment. How betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from systems we trust. Even today, Maya says she still wakes up at night hearing that scream. She says freedom is beautiful, but fragile. And she wonders how many others are still waiting for someone to look at their case and say, something doesn't feel right. Because the scariest part of this story isn't the murder. It's how close the truth came to never being found. And how easily we all believed a lie, just because it was convenient.